what most people would consider a remarkably short space of time, the brand Amoda has gone from being pretty unknown in the UK to holding around a 1.45% market share since launching only in 2024. And that's no quiet entry. Actually, that's some pretty impressive momentum. Models like the smaller Amoda 5 and also the larger Amoda 9, they've really helped to establish the brand as a serious player in the affordable SUV space. They offer high specification, bold design, long warranties and prices that undercut, well, pretty much all of its rivals. And now comes what I think could be their most important model yet and their biggest seller. This is the Amoda 7. This is a mid-sized SUV designed right in the heart of the UK SUV family market. And while a petrol version is going to follow on later, the one that I'm driving and testing today is the Super Hybrid System, or SHS for short. More on that later. Priced at £32,000 on the road, it promises over 700 miles of total range, and 56 miles of that is electric-only driving. Now, on paper, this looks like the car that could move Amoda away from just a promising newcomer to a genuine mainstream contender. But has it truly got what it takes to take on the likes of the German rivals? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's video, because it needs to be the full package. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content like this, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I think to truly understand this car, you need to understand its position in the Amoda and also the wider lineup. So above this sits the Amoda 9, which is the flagship of the Amoda range. That car runs a larger battery, you have twin electric motors and also all-wheel drive. So that car is quicker, it's more powerful, and it's also just designed to showcase the brand's technology at its fullest expression. It's also quite a bit more expensive. Now this Amoda 7 is clearly more restrained. So it uses an 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery paired with a 1.5 litre petrol engine, producing 204 PS and paired together with 365 newton meters of torque in this super hybrid form. So a petrol is going to come later on. It remains front-wheel drive and it focuses on balancing efficiency, performance and price rather than just chasing those headline acceleration figures. Below this, however, in the wider Chery family, you've got the JQ J7, so that is very slightly smaller. It has a shorter wheelbase and also a smaller boot. So the 7 fits squarely into the middle, and that's likely where I think the majority of UK buyers are going to be looking. So why don't we take a look at the design? And within the wider Chery, JQ and Amoda family, I'd say Amoda is definitely the edgier brand. Where JQ feels more rugged, Amoda's designs are sharper and more futuristic. The standout feature here is the shattered honeycomb grille, which really makes a statement and gives the car a bold, modern look. Paired with the slim headlights and sculpted body lines, it creates quite a sleek and distinctive front end. And this Larimar green paint colour really helps it stand out as well, especially in the natural light. Around the back, the design continues that sharp theme with a full width light bar, but instead of a simple straight strip, these lights are actually in a zigzag design, which it might just be me, but reminds me a little bit of a Pikachu tail. And also, if you look closely at this car, there's some really nice little graphic details. So they're built into the rear quarter panel, but also on the wheel arches. And as you look closely at the different bits of black cladding, you'll see these fine details, which I actually think is a really nice touch. This particular car is the top spec Noble model, which gets 20-inch alloy wheels, while the entry-level Knight comes with slightly smaller 18s. Moving on to the interior of the 7, and its bigger brother the 9 is more premium inside, but it also has a more premium price tag. That car is going to set you back over £40,000, and inside here I think that the price reflects the interior design because it feels more accessible, and I really like that. But don't get me wrong, put this up against many of its rivals and it outshines them for quality for miles. These seats are really a real highlight, so they actually say that these are inspired by gaming chairs, and you can see that. So you've got the wingback design, but they're super squashy. You've got loads of plushness all around them, and they feel a little bit kind of sporty or technical with those flashes of chrome which you have behind the headrests and also down the centre. They're also really lovely. You've got leather, and then you have this kind of soft, almost Alcantara. This runs a lot around the cabin, so it's almost in between a suede Alcantara, but it's slightly coarser in its feel, and I imagine slightly cheaper to produce. But you know what? It still looks great. So you'll find that on the tops of the seats, and you also have it across the dashboard and all the way across the top of the doors. Yep, you have nicely trimmed materials all the way to the top. Take that, German rivals. Now, this centre console, you have this floating design. You have a split opening armrest with plenty of storage inside, and I really like the fact that you have cup holders which are hidden behind this lovely soft closing kind of section, and it really does kind of minimalise the interior and make it look nice and sleek and stylish. But fold those back and you have a practical space. You've actually got a little section for some Amoda sweets, and you have your key there, and then also you have your 2 cup holders, which I really like. Now up front, you have this, once again, suede material, which is just covering the 2 pads. Now I have 2 phones here, but only one can charge at once, but there is storage for 2. And then you have a few buttons. So we have your drive mode buttons, we have your EV and HEV mode, so you can switch between hybrid and EV mode. And you have some quick climate control functions, including an on-off switch. You have an AC button. Of course, you have your hazard warnings, and you have a quick clear for your windscreen and also your rear screen. So that's really nice. Would I have liked some climate controls? Yes. However, they do stay physical all the time at the bottom of the screen. And let's take a second to talk about this infotainment system. This 15.6-inch touchscreen system itself is pretty straightforward to use. The menus are clear and the graphics are sharp, and it responds really quickly to inputs, so you're not constantly waiting for things to load. Most of the main functions sit within easy reach of the home screen, but you do also get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which many people will probably end up using most of the time. And also the voice recognition system is very, very good. One feature that's particularly useful when parking is the surround view camera system, which gives a really clear picture around the car, and it even has a transparent chassis style view. It makes parking in tighter spaces far less stressful. And then there's one feature that you definitely don't see in many cars at this price point, if any cars at this price point, and that is a built-in fragrance system. So you can actually choose between 3 different cabin scents, including Dark Temptation, Charming Air and Forest Bath, which gently diffuse through the ventilation system. It's a small detail, but it adds a surprisingly premium feel every time you get in the car. The only thing I would say I prefer when it comes to the JQ products is the steering wheel. I really like the entry-level steering wheel, which feels just a little bit mechanical. This maybe feels a little bit on the cheaper side. You have a little bit of black plastic, gloss black, which always feels just a little bit less premium than if you have something a bit more durable. But you know what? I'm really splitting hairs, because otherwise this is a fantastic cabin which comes with tons of equipment. The SHS, or the Super Hybrid system setup, combines a 1.5 litre petrol engine with an 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery, delivering 204 PS and 365 newton meters of torque, getting you to the 62 in 8.4 seconds. It's not quick for a performance SUV, but it's not supposed to be that, and it's very adequate for everyday driving and overtaking. One of the more interesting elements of this car is the charging capability. So unlike many plug-in hybrids that are limited to relatively slow AC charging, this system actually supports up to 40 kilowatts of DC charging, allowing you to go from 30 to 80% recharge in around 20 minutes. That's actually really usable, and usually plug-in hybrid owners aren't going to plug in on the go, but you actually could in this car. And there's also vehicle to load capability at 3.3 kilowatts, which adds a layer of versatility that's still relatively uncommon in this plug-in hybrid segment. Technically, it's a well-specified system, but the more important question is how it behaves on the road. The first thing you notice is how EV-led it feels, so pulling away from junctions, moving through traffic, even light throttle response inputs at lower speeds are smooth and impressively quiet. It genuinely behaves like an electric car for most of the time, and in fact, the petrol engine doesn't constantly interrupt the experience, and when it does come in, very, very quietly, the transition is subtle enough that you're not suddenly aware of it being a completely different character. The battle of the warranties is quite important nowadays, and Amoda backs the 7 with a 7-year 100,000-mile warranty, alongside an 8-year battery warranty and also RAC home start cover. And for a new brand establishing itself in the UK, that reassurance is really going to matter. In fact, Amoda have said that they're really trying to bring back that showroom experience, having people come into the showroom, have cars to drive, and give them that handover experience with a brand new car and a long warranty period. And whilst feedback on the warranty has been mixed, as it often is with new cars, overall it seems pretty good. But I'd love to know your experiences of any Amoda claims or any warranties that you've put in. So let us know in the comments down below, because I know lots of people are really going to want to hear about that experience. But overall, being backed by that 7 years and 100,000 miles is probably going to go a long way. So inside you do have that slight extra wheelbase, which gives you a bit more space. It's very comfortable in the back, trimmed very nicely. Pull down the armrest and you have a couple of cup holders. You've got a bit of gloss black, which I don't usually like, but actually mixed together with the chrome, it just feels it's a little bit more different. You wouldn't find that in your German car makers within this part of the market. I've got 2 ISOFIX fitments. I've also got a USB and a USB-C charger. I've got plenty of storage inside the doors. And just like the front of this car, I have nicely trimmed wooden doors, and you have those really nice chrome door handles. You have the stitching within the doors, and you also have that almost Alcantara style material at the top. It's very rare that you have a rear interior space, which is so nicely trimmed. And actually, I think that goes a long way.
The JQ J7 was often criticised for its small boot, but no such issues here. The Amoda's slightly longer wheelbase and smarter battery placement mean that you get a much bigger boot, 639 litres, which is almost 300 litres more than in the J7 SHS form. Lift up the boot floor and there's also some useful underfloor storage, which is handy for things like charging cables or smaller items you'd rather keep tucked out of sight. You also get a retractable parcel shelf included as standard, which keeps everything covered and helps to keep the cabin feeling tidy. So overall, it's a really practical space, and it feels like Amoda has clearly paid attention to the kind of usability that families will actually care about.
Now, you'll probably see this coming, but the steering is light. It's very light. But in town, that kind of works in its favour. It's simple to manoeuvre and it's easy to position, and paired with the 540-degree camera system, it makes parking actually really stress-free. So once you pick up speed, however, and head out onto a faster A road or B road, you do start to notice the steering isn't especially communicative. It's okay, it's accurate enough, but there isn't a great deal of feedback coming through the wheel. Now, I think most everyday buyers just aren't going to be bothered by this, but if you really want engagement, then I don't really think this car has it, along with the rest of the Cherry range. The suspension tuning, however, is leaning towards comfort, and on smoother roads and motorway stretches, it really settles nicely and it feels relaxed. At 60 and 70 miles per hour, it's composed, it's really quiet, and it's actually really easy to cover distances in, particularly when it's running in electric mode. It feels just refined and super calm. This is a lovely driving experience. On rougher roads, more typical British surfaces, you can sense that softness a little bit more, so there is a touch more float over undulations, and it doesn't feel particularly tight or tied down when pushed harder. Again, it's not focusing on being sporty and being engaging. It never really feels poorly controlled, but it clearly prioritises comfort over dynamic sharpness. Performance from the 204 PS setup feels more measured rather than it does punchy. This car isn't trying to pin you back in your seat, but there is enough torque here for confident overtakes, and also for merging onto motorways without drama, all those things that just make living with this car a little bit easier. The electric assistance definitely fills in the lower speeds nicely, and it never feels sluggish off the line at all, that has to be said, and even when it's depleted, you still have a bit of electricity left. You know what, I think what stands out most spending time with this car is just how undemanding it feels. So it's not dramatic, it's not especially engaging, but it is really calm. It gives you this quiet, nice, easy drive. And you know what, I suspect for most buyers in this segment, that's going to matter far more than steering feedback or cornering precision. This new Amoda in super hybrid form feels like it could be a car which will define the brand's next phase into the UK car market. It offers seriously strong electric range, there's useful fast charging capabilities for a plug-in hybrid, generous equipment and also a really competitive price. It sits neatly between the Halo 9 and the smaller 5, targeting the heart of the family SUV market. Now this is not going to be the sharpest or most engaging SUV in its class, but I don't think that really matters. If this car can prove to be comfortable, refined and consistently efficient in real-world use, it will have a seriously strong case. The challenge isn't undercutting rivals on price, it's matching them on polish. And if Amoda has managed that with the 7, then this could genuinely be a car which moves the brand from newcomer to mainstream contender in the UK. But let me know, what do you think of the 7? I think this is my favourite car in the lineup yet. And those fragrances and the tiny little details like those sporting seats really just elevate it above what we've seen so far. But would this be your choice within the range, or would you go for the slightly cheaper Tiggo 7? Let me know down below. I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time guys, see you later.